Once upon a time, in terms of aspects of the video game industry that we could all rely on, games turned into films were at best middling popcorn fluff and at worst a total disaster. However, in recent years we've had the likes of Sonic and Detective Pikachu that were better than anyone was quite expecting them to be, and overall the quality of gaming adaptation seems to be rising. Is the era of the terrible video game film over? In this list we'll be looking at upcoming games that are gracing the big or small screen and might continue to push the trend that video game conversions aren't necessarily guaranteed stinkers. I'm Si for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 upcoming video game adaptations you need to be excited for. Number 10. Fallout. The post-apocalyptic wasteland of Fallout and its alternate spin on human history is rife for all kinds of storytelling. That's why each game does its own thing rather than being a more sequelized series of stories. As such, adding additional media into the world has the potential of giving us new Fallout stories that otherwise may never have been told. Amazon Studios' Fallout began filming this summer. We know startlingly little about the show, for example if it's adapting any particular game or location, or if any characters from the game will feature. Walter Goggins, Ella Purnell and Kyle MacLachlan will star, but their roles are yet to be revealed. However, rather than look at this with a glass half empty perspective, let's focus on the positives. Early set photos of Super Duper Mart in the Wastelands of 2077, as well as staple of the series, a vault, give us an extremely promising early look into the accurate representation of the games. It's impossible not to get a little delighted at how that world is set to be portrayed. The show is being handled by Westworld creators Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, with Joy describing the series as a gonzo, crazy, funny adventure and mind-F like none you've ever seen before. Number 9. Castlevania Nocturne. Out of all the video game adaptation success stories, Castlevania was a true shocker. Considering Konami's track history for badly treating or outright ignoring its own franchises, it was cathartic to see the series treated well when it became its own freestanding anime on Netflix. Loosely following the story of Castlevania 3, whilst adapting deeper lore from other games, Netflix's show was a stylish, sexy and thrilling 4 seasons of vampiric warfare. The streaming giant saw the success of Castlevania and uncharacteristically chose to keep it alive. With Trevor's story complete, the duty of vampire killer falls to his descendants. Whilst the spin-off Nocturne will skip Simon Belmont, hero of the original game, it is instead expected to adapt 2 fan favourite titles in Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. Set around the time of the French Revolution, these stories will introduce Richter Belmont as he fights off Dracula, succumbs to his own weaknesses, and must be saved by a returning Alucard. If there is concern to be had, it's that Adi Shankar, the producer behind the first 4 seasons of the show, is not attached and is in fact in a legal battle with Netflix after being phased out by the company. Still, with the ground laid by the previous success, it's possible that Nocturne can keep up the quality regardless. Number 8. The Last of Us. There's dozens of video game projects out there floating in the ether. If a game proves to be a massive success, Hollywood is suddenly very interested. Gears of War, Metroid, Metal Gear Solid, all franchises where the film adaptation has never amounted to more than a big question mark. The Last of Us, when it was first announced, felt like it might join them. However, we are rocketing closer towards its 2023 release, and with the trailer now out, it's pretty clear that this is happening and it's time to get hyped. When it comes to narratives, The Last of Us as an episodic television series just makes a lot of sense. Aside from looking awesome, The Last of Us series will be a really interesting litmus test for an adaptation that seems to be riding as close to the source as possible. Not only is the soundtrack being composed by The Last of Us' Gustavo Santaolalla, but the show is being written by the game's writer and director Neil Druckmann. That being said, both lead actors Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey have confirmed that they have kept their distance from the video game so as to not taint their performances. Still, both are extremely talented, and it's exciting to consider what they might do with 2 of video games' most beloved characters of the last decade. Number 7. Knuckles the Echidna spin-off series. Who'd have thought that of all the properties that would succeed in the cinema, it would be Sonic the Hedgehog? It was hardly Citizen Kane, but the Bluebirds 2020 outing was decent fun and successful enough to warrant a sequel. Paramount Pictures and Sega both must have been ecstatic. This year's follow-up introduced Sonic's pals Tails and Knuckles, transformed Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik into something even closer to the one from the games, and became one of the highest grossing video game movie adaptations. Not only is a third Sonic movie on the horizon, the hard-hitting but naive Knuckles is due to get his own series in 2023 and will be once again played by Idris Elba. It's difficult to place one's confidence in Sonic due to the character's video game history at times, but it really speaks to the studio's belief in their Sonic universe. Both films have been surprisingly fun, and there's no reason to suspect that the same won't happen again for this show. Elba's Knuckles was something that most fans came out of their viewings of Sonic 2 pleased with, and who can say no to more of a good thing. Number 6. Silent Hill. Critics might have derided it, but fans at least held some appreciation for 2006's Silent Hill film. At a 63% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, it's one of the more warmly received video game motion pictures. Directed by Christoph Gans, the film does admittedly make plenty of its own mistakes. How are you going to cast the legendary Sean Bean and then give him nothing to do? But it also got plenty of things right. Silent Hill had the correct aesthetic, tone, and plenty of things that are wonderfully lifted from the source material, which is more than can be said for some video game movies. The shocking and head-spinning Is This Real Silent Hill transmission in October 2022 revealed 4 upcoming games in the franchise, as well as officially confirmed Gans was working on a follow-up. It seems all parties are choosing to pretend that 2012's frankly abysmal Silent Hill revelation doesn't exist, and we're all the better off for it, and is instead adapting the iconic second game in the franchise. The time given during the transmission to explain the thought process behind Return to Silent Hill says a lot about the filmmakers and Konami's shared enthusiasm for the project. Early looks at concept art are exciting, and with the leaps in technology since Gans' first Silent Hill outing 15 years ago, his next has the potential to blow our socks off. Number 5. Five Nights at Freddy's. Scott Cawthon's indie horror mega franchise seemed to have appeared overnight. Five Nights at Freddy's puts the player in the shoes of a security guard at a children's restaurant where the robotic mascot animals become murderous at night. Playing on a very real feeling of unease around animatronics, it's no surprise that the game became huge and spiraled into a dozen sequels. It's also not surprising that the fledgling IP entered discussions for a motion picture in quite short order, but ultimately got caught up in the red tape and development hell of the movie industry. Eventually, the property was picked up by Blumhouse. In August 2022, Jason Blum rather unceremoniously revealed that Jim Henson's Creature Shop were part of the project and would be making the all-important animatronics for the film. With decades of experience and a ridiculous portfolio, there is perhaps no better partner for Blumhouse to have on their side, bringing Freddy and company to life. Jason Blum seems particularly enthusiastic about the film, which is exactly what you want out of your studio head. With Emma Tammy directing and Cawthon assisting with the script and producing, filming is set to begin in 2023. So it seems that the movie is finally going ahead, and doing so in capable hands that are just as excited about the project as the fans should be. Number 4. ONIMUSHA. After the success of Netflix's Castlevania animated series, there was a lot of discussion to be had about which video games could benefit from similar treatment. Unfortunately, the likes of Devil May Cry and Assassin's Creed have both yet to materialise. That being said, a surprising reveal at a Netflix-hosted virtual event this year let us know that a name previously not considered is on the way. We've not seen more than a few screen caps, but it was mind-blowing to see Musashi Miyamoto from ONIMUSHA was getting his own show. What makes ONIMUSHA as a show quite an interesting concept is that it's being helmed by Takashi Miike as chief director. Whilst that name may not mean much to video game fans specifically, Miike is a renowned director in Japan with over 100 projects to his name that range from family drama to disturbing horror with plenty of samurai stories in between. More than that, Miike is known for the controversial excess of violence in several of his films. The original ONIMUSHA game got a remaster in 2019, but aside from that, the series hasn't had a mainline game since 2006, which is what makes this such an interesting and exciting choice. If Capcom and Netflix can capture their own lightning in a bottle like Castlevania did, it'll be prime for the series to capitalise on in the future. Number 3. Borderlands. With the raucous energy that Borderlands has as a game, it always had potential as a Hollywood blockbuster. The title's high-octane action, wicked sense of humour and memorable characters made it prime for adaptation, and Lionsgate agreed when they picked up the rights in 2015. It took some time, but during 2020, numerous casting announcements made it clear that the studio weren't messing around. With Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Hart in lead roles next to the always animated Jack Black as the voice of the incessant Claptrap, claptrap, Borderlands looks stacked with mainstream appeal. Filming wrapped way back in the summer of 2021. Whilst that might feel like a concern, consider that the pandemic has really messed with film release schedules and in fact relish the extra time that Borderlands has had behind closed doors. Considering the games have a very distinct visual style as part of their identity, any additional effects work to make the movie pop should be welcomed. Silhouetted shots of the characters individually and as a group is almost all we have to go on so far, as the project has been kept very much under wraps. However, a minute of footage was shown privately at CinemaCon 2022, and reactions were largely positive to the film's tone and colourful presentation, which is a good sign of things to come. Hopefully that trailer isn't too far out. Number 2. Super Mario Bros. The movie. In January 2018, the almost unthinkable happened as two titans of industry, Nintendo and Illumination Pictures, signed a deal for a full-length movie based on video games' most recognisable face. Cue an endless slew of jokes about the 1993 dystopian cyberpunk adventure that was Mario and Luigi's previous outing, and the conversation that surely Nintendo hadn't made the same mistake twice. The launch trailer indeed confirmed that everything was going to be alright. The subject of the casting, and more specifically Chris Pratt's voice for Mario, dominated social media in its wake, which for the most part overshadowed the otherwise flawless trailer. Fans were excited about the Hollywood-style reinterpretation of the classic theme song, the incredibly strong visual design, and Jack Black's chaotic performance as Bowser. Arriving in April 2023, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is surely going to dominate video game news when it does finally drop, as at first glance it's sure to bring in the big bucks. Bright, colourful, expressive and funny, the trailer oozes the kind of heart and good-natured fun that Nintendo prides itself on. Super Mario Bros. The movie might well be a film that opens up not just an entire franchise for the plumber, but may even inspire the big N to consider the silver screen for many of their other classic mascots. Number 1. Ghost of Tsushima. Yet another example of a single video game forcing itself into the zeitgeist so quickly that it caught the attention of Hollywood, samurai action-adventure Ghost of Tsushima was greenlit for a film just 9 months after its release. Director Chad Stahelski is the perfect man for the job for a couple of reasons. First of all, his filmography is perfect for Tsushima's brutal yet slick style, as he previously directed all 4 of the stylish John Wick films. More than that, he speaks with reverence about the importance of being true to the culture of the video game. In an interview with Collider, Stahelski said that he was hoping for a complete Japanese cast in Japanese and that Sony was on board with it. He expressed his love for Japanese culture and the excitement at directing a film not in his native language. Whilst the idea of a big budget film releasing in the West exclusively with subtitles would have previously been unheard of, the success of Korean productions Squid Game and Parasite have been instrumental in shifting expectations. If Sony is indeed happy with Stahelski's desire for integrity, it stands to reason that they trust him to deliver the goods. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Which of these are you most excited for? And any that we didn't mention, make sure to drop them in the comments. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I've been Cy for WhatCulture, and have a good week.